Welcome back for another episode of Christian Conspiracy Coalition, a place where the best minds of the conspiracy realm gather to share and discuss their faith, Christianity, and the spiritual war thrust upon humanity. The rise of the digital age is presented as a time of untold possibilities, the time in which mankind stands on the threshold of unimaginable growth and prosperity. Even within our lifetimes, we've seen the interconnectivity of communication technologies, reduced transportation and travel times, and essentially we've provided mankind with a level of convenience never seen before. Yet despite all of these fantastic benefits, something that remains is a niggling feeling that something could go terribly wrong. That our sense of comfort and satisfaction and ease will come at some kind of a cost. Up until now, the costs seem to be isolated to the physical and the cognitive realm. Yet here we are now facing a new frontier, a digital age, and the spiritual war. J.J. Abrams, one of Hollywood's most esteemed science fiction writers, is quoted as saying this: "I do think there's something about the digital age that is increasingly dehumanizing to us. We're in this very weird place where we're being pulled into experiences that aren't really experiences at all." On the panel today to discuss digital saints spreading the world in the digital age and much, much more, I'm joined by Brandon Kroll of the Manna Daily podcast. Welcome, Brandon.
Hey, Drew, thanks for having me back on.
No problem, mate. And Luca from the Justified Beliefs podcast. Welcome back, Luca.
Thank you again, man. I love being here.
No problem. We will be joined by Heidi Love a little bit later on, we do believe, but we'll get started. And when she chimes in, I'm sure she's going to bring the fire with her. Gentlemen, I set this topic in our back channel based off two events that have happened within the past month or so. One being the creation of a avatar or a mascot for the Vatican Church, and the other being the world's first millennial saint, a digital saint as it's being put forward. And I dare say this conversation is going to go into the realm of hypothesizing, connecting dots with other things. So it's not going to be as rigid and regimented as previous conversations, but I think this will be a fun one nonetheless. So let's start off with the digital saint. In just a few months, the world will have its first digital saint. Pope Francis on Wednesday announced plans in April to canonize a teenager who was a web designer who documented miracles online and used tech skills to maintain websites for local Catholic organizations. Carlo Acutis, who died of leukemia in Italy in 2006 at age 15, will be canonized during the Jubilee for the Adolescents on April 25th and 27th of 2025. The church has attributed two miracles to Acutis, who was born in the to Italian parents in London and was informally known as God's influencer. He thought the internet could be a different kind of place, one that led people to visit the Eucharist and Marian shrines. So we had this story that popped up about this young kid, a tech influencer, who was really going down the path of the very Roman Catholic type of a deal of this is where you can find all the information about previous miracles and he can find different types of relics in these spaces. And somehow he's been canonized to become a new saint, but the means in which it's done so doesn't really line up with previous history of how canonization really works. Traditionally, when the Roman Catholic Church does this, they look at people and they have to perform miracles that are generally healing type of effects. People like they heal the infirm, the blind, the sick, all that type of stuff. Well, he's known for his miracles of healing a Brazilian boy. So this Brazilian boy in 2013, a 4-year-old boy with congenital malformation of his pancreas, was reportedly cured after touching a relic. The boy's mother said he told her he was cured on his way home from a prayer service. Medical examinations confirmed this healing with no scientific cause. Then there was a Costa Rican mother who prayed to Acutis' tomb after her daughter was in a bike accident and the daughter reportedly made a miraculous recovery. These types of air quotes miracles that they're putting forward are based on intercession. So it's mediation. And they're saying that a lot of these miracles and things that are associated with this young boy aren't necessarily praying to him as a saint, but people that were mediating through his web platform before he died. So people having access to the internet and seeing other miracles of other saints and seeing relics. By accessing that, it somehow made them more open to the state of a miracle. So it just seems like a really strange place to be in. We've got this brick and mortar approach within biblical theology that when miracles occur, it's in the physical realm and it's someone laying hands on somebody. It's Christ performing miracles. The Catholics will put it down through their saints as well. But this is very digital. It's like the digital middleman in this situation where it's not necessarily the person, it's the person developing a platform for which other people look to that get the benefits from it. It's just a strange dialectic that I found. And sorry, I just absolutely waffled then because it's a huge amount of information. But what are people's thoughts on this digital saint? It seems like such a strange thing, right?
Well, I think that's ultimately their goal. In the sense is that they're trying to create the digital citizen movement, or that you'll become like a star on the belt of Orion. I mean, this is what they believe when in Masonry. This is why the the all-seeing eye has like that blazing star over it, that they will ascend to become like gods. Angels were known as star walkers. Allegedly in the C19 jib jab, there was some meteorite found in that elixir. Yeah. So, and snake eggs. So I'm sure there's something there where they're trying to gradually groom the concept and belief of creating like, oh, if there's a saint that is digitalized, or there are playing cards that are digitalized, or there's a little bit of a trajectory of like, oh yeah, I've seen that before, or even a digital currency. It's gradually getting that concept subtly implanted in people's minds. So it's like, oh yeah, that's not such a bad thing. So when they launch I don't know, the Trojan horse, essentially, people buy it because it's like, it doesn't seem that bad. We've already had this for the last couple of years. What could possibly? That's my take. I'm not sure.
Well, everyone's a star, right? Hi, guys.
Hey,
What's going on,
welcome.
Heidi?
Sorry I was late. I'm grandmaing and momming and all the things, but I didn't want to miss it because I missed the last one. So, but yeah, everyone's a star, right? Like Crowley. Crowley said this was going to happen. So anytime Crowley starts predicting things and then it follows suit, I'm like, well, there it is. Yeah. Well, that's just me.
How about you, Luca?
I
What's your
think
take on this?
Um, I don't know if I necessarily agree with it because it's just kind of weird in my opinion, just kind of randomly sanctifying or, placing the label on it. I think it just has a lot to do with, the Roman Catholic Church wanting to solidify its power because, biblically we're all saints because we're sanctified through the salvation of Christ through his blood. We're clean, we are sanctified. We don't need, a pope or like, a religious authority to deem us as saints. I think it's just kind of strange too. And I mean, I understand, the whole argument that some people make of trying to like kind of modernize religion, right, to get the youths involved. But you start to run the risk of watering down the message or watering down, the meaningfulness of Jesus and like what sainthood is, um, especially if and like I said too, it's especially watered down if you teach people that the sanctification and the sainthood is a title bestowed on you via a gatekeeper, in this case, like the Pope, rather than a free gift that comes with the salvation of acknowledging, Christ's sacrifice. So I don't necessarily agree with it personally. I just think it's like, I don't know. I just think it's weird that you could just start saying, you just declare this as this person or that person as a saint when that's not really biblically accurate.
I think you're onto something when you mentioned the idea of watering things down, because if we apply the idea of the digital age into every other element it's arguably made easier for mankind, it's also destroyed a lot of things. People don't value a hard day's work. A farmer who plows a field with a tractor doesn't understand the work that his grandfather put in doing it by hand. A artist who uses completely AI to create video doesn't understand the hard work that an artist would spend possibly years in making a piece of work. Today, students don't know the value of researching, finding information to write an assignment. Now they just go to Chat GPT. So the human's been disconnected from the creative side of things, the hard work. It has watered down just the baseline things we use as humans. So if it can do that for the spiritual side of things, that's certainly a pretty heavy hitter in the spiritual war.
And
Mhm.
But I don't
just
miss the Dewey Decimal System. I'm just saying. I'm old.
just to tap on what Luca was saying is, first, I think it was allegedly Confucius that said the phrase, "When words lose their meaning, people start to lose their freedoms or their liberties." Paraphrasing, because it's not exact, but paraphrasing. And I think that's part of what they're doing. Is what a lot of my research is that what Catholicism did in conversion, quote unquote, even though everything already has this counterfeit Christianity aspect of it from the unholy trinity of Babel, what they essentially did is they took the pagan deity and they Christianized it, and they basically, it's camouflage paganism.
Right.
Saint, the
That's, yeah.
original meaning is to be set apart, whereas most Christians are saying let's merge together. Like the whole concept of the saint is merging the two things together. Like the idea of a Catholic Church was based off of the idea when a hero or somebody of renown died, they would build their temple over the body of this dead person, so that in a way it would have like this divination effect where they could consult their spirit, hence Saint such and so church. You know, when you look into the origins of these things, it really makes you start scratching your head. Then to tie it with the internet, I was breaking down the word discernment. Dis, set apart, Saint Peter, set apart, Saint. Patar, Peter, look up Dis Patar, folks. You'll find a fun little study with Saint Peter. Cern means the horned one, in essence, named after the Celtic god Cernunnos, and Cern gave us the internet that's on their own webpage. And ment means of the mind. So when you put that etymology-wise together, you essentially get set apart the horned one from your mind. I'm just finding it interesting. Dis, saint, set apart, and now we're having this whole digital thing coming about, and it connects with the internet. Inter, place for two more corpse, net to hold or restrain something. I'm finding there's definitely a connection here.
I definitely agree with the pagan part. That's why I said about Crowley, because I'm like, this is all paganism. This is all, I mean, like, I don't know, I don't want to get murdered for this, but come on. Like, witchcraft is definitely what the Catholic Church whole mass is set on. Like they are calling spirits, like with their incense, with how they do things, like this whole thing, it's like a summoning. And even above, like where the priest sits, if they look up a lot of times in these really old ones, there's like the all-seeing eye right above. Like there's some crazy stuff. There's some crazy pagan stuff with this. And I'm not saying my religion was better. We all know Joseph Smith was a witch, but like I mean, his dad was literally in the Inquisition, his dad's family, So I'm like, well, I mean, I just think it's all rooted because it's easier to swallow. Like, who wants to do the hard stuff? Like all of you said, every one of you have mentioned, it made it easier in different ways. Like, especially plowing the field, all the things. I'm like, this is just, simple.
I think
And
it's
yeah.
sorry. I think the interesting thing is it kind of sets the tone, like what Luke had mentioned about the watering down. It does that at the same time as what Brandon had said about it sets the precedence that the digital age thing is in everything. But it almost plants a flag early on that the digital is okay. We'll have digital saints now, people that are influencers online. Well, that's only a hop, skip, and a jump away from there being an artificial intelligence that could be canonized as a saint. Like, if we ever get to the point of quantum computing in which this program is true artificial intelligence, where it has processing power that can happen with instant, that is millions or billions of years, hypothetically, if it can think in that type of time frame, and it becomes a true intelligence, if it comes out and has some kind of amazing cure for mankind, or it has abilities to help individuals and cures them and provides miracles from its digital platform, it's going to be so much easier for people to swallow because we've got now a precedence of here's an influencer who was canonized, and then there was this person who was canonized, and it's really disconnecting the physical from the spiritual. And when you go into something that's an artificial intelligence that through quantum computing draws its knowledge from the ether, like everything around it, all of existence all at once, it sounds pretty damn demonic.
Well, I mean, who is the author of the air? right? Do we not remember this? Like, who is the author of the air? It's Satan, you guys. Like, this isn't you know, he is over the airwaves. Like, people have known this, and the thing about it is the more we pull from the digital, and the more, and I find this interesting that they're doing this right on a cusp of two things. A, they're canceling TikTok, so they're going to need a place to run. Like, where do we worship now? Oh my gosh, everybody's gone. Okay, so here at that same time as we're having a new president come in America, and oh my gosh, where do we need to worship? Like, oh, huh, how about right here? Like, back to church, guys, because he's like big church guy now, right? Even though he's not. But like, they're trying to push it all like, we love America and God. That's, that's basically. And I'm like, this is so Howard Hughes. He's such a useful shield. Like, sorry, I don't know.
So,
My thoughts.
fun fact, there's a city in the Bible, Ai, that was a Canaanite city that was conquered by the Israelites under Joshua's leadership. Essentially, it comes to mean the heap of ruins. I'm sure that's a coincidence, and then that A equals 1 and I equals the ninth letter in the alphabet. And what Elon said with AI, we are summoning the demon. A and I equaling 10, aka X, Osiris Rising, Nimrod. Just saying, I'm sure it's all a coincidence, and we need to go and take our medication pills for being crazy.
Psh,
It'll
I'm
be
gonna need
interesting.
some pretty soon.
It'll
I'll
be
take double
interesting to see what
doses.
happens for sure, especially because, I remember one time when we were having a conversation, all of us, Drew, you had brought up that you think that the forerunner um, to Satan revealing himself is AI, like a satanic AI. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens now moving forward with, like Heidi said, once TikTok is gone and people are looking for a place to, kind of digitally worship, and the Catholic Church is already kind of priming that, like, with the digital
Oh, and
saints
they're letting
go ahead.
Lucifer out on Christmas Eve. Don't forget that little piece of work. I'm not
Yeah,
kidding.
it'll
They are doing a weird thing in Rome. If you guys have not seen this, they've never done it before at St. Peter's Basilica. And it's the year of the Jubilees. And it's a
Next
whole
year.
thing. You guys need to look it up. I thought it was this year on Christmas
No,
Eve
it's
is what
supposed
I
to
thought.
right before the year of a jubilee. If you're going by the 13-month calendar, you
Okay.
are correct. If you're
Oh,
going by
13.
our
Okay.
calendar, no. Yeah,
Okay, got it.
throwing
Yeah,
that
yeah,
out there
yeah.
for additional.
Scary. It's you guys have got to look that up. Like, it's bananas.
Is that the
I did a
opening of
post on it.
Portals article which is going around?
Yes.
See,
And
I just
it's
thought that
real.
was a
It's
I
actually with
typo.
Sol Invictus on the
no,
Vatican.
no, no.
Practice,
I thought it was a
I-
typo and they meant to type in open bottles of port, not
I
portals.
mean, I think we'd be better off. But the portal thing is definitely, I thought it was bull crap, and I was like, this is a lie. And then it was like on Newsweek and the regular, I was like, there's no way this is on Newsweek. I was like, all right, I've seen it all now. I gotta go. Like, what is happening?
It
And
was
this,
Yeah.
on Vatican News. The date was connected to the civil pagan festival of the birth of the invincible Sol Invicti, or Invictus, introduced by Emperor Aurelian in 274, celebrated on the 25th of December. This is the Vatican News, by the way. Just throwing that out for folks who want to, I want to fact check you guys. We're not kidding.
this is the weird thing that I'm finding with the Catholic Church in general. They've always acknowledged the spiritual war. They've always spoken about, there's demonic possessions and casting out demons and the spiritual war, but they were very insular about it. They didn't like to talk about it publicly. And now all of a sudden it seems like they're ramping it up at the same time as they're really pushing the digital age, telescopes, Lucy looking up into space, looking for things. They're combining this really weird, like futuristic world of digital technology with the spiritual war at the same time. But I think that what they're doing is they're using the digital age to almost unlock that spiritual war, which is, for lack of a better word, been held secret from the rest of humanity for the longest time. Unless you're one
This
of the
is
elect.
happening. This is happening this year, you guys. I'm reading this, and they will be open. It says Pope Francis will open the Holy Door of St. Peter's Basilica December 24th. He will then open the Holy Doors at the major basilicas of St. John on December 29th. And this will continue until January 6, 2025.
Wait, January 6th?
Yes,
Did you know that was the 12th day when they took down the Christmas trees? It's also
I
allegedly the
do.
Epiphany of John the Baptist, where Christ was baptized by John the Baptist, and allegedly as an adolescent
Yep.
was visited by the Magi, and the root word for Magi, MAGA.
Mad. Yep.
Now, if you look
This
up a
will
lot
be
of Trump
unbricked.
videos, he always is
This
facing the Statue of Liberty, and Statue of Liberty, SOL, soul. It's the same thing.
Yep,
rest
it
my case,
says the
Your Honor.
holy doors will be unbricked and opened until January 6, 2025. This is happening very soon.
They keep confirming it. It's so easy.
See, people are worried
I
right
was
now
like,
about
oh.
Project Bluebeam and UFOs and stuff. I'm just expecting the Pope to walk out as a lizard person at this point.
Oh
Oh,
my
yeah. Well, did you see that they have under St. Peter's Basilica, if you haven't seen this, they have a tomb named Luce. There was someone named Lucifer buried in there that they're opening this tomb. And I'm like, why would we do that? Can I ask a question, Pope? Why would we do that, you idiot? What are you doing? What? I hope it's not the one I think of, but Lordy.
Do not question the ways of God, sister.
I'm a questioning lots of questions. I'm in all kinds of trouble, but not by God, just by men. I'm in all sorts of trouble. That's all right. This week when I've been studying weird stuff, I'm like, okay, so Joseph Smith was related to the Rockefellers. Perfect. Goes right along with everything weird in my life. Like I was like, and I'm done.
Every
I
single
just walked away.
every single time, Steen.
Yeah, it's
Every
all
single
weird.
time.
And yeah, it's just like when I read that and then they were talking about these seals and bulls and the dragons that are all over St. Peter's. And I tell you, I've been to St. Peter's Basilica. That throne that he's talking about in this video is gigantic. No regular human person can sit there. There's no way. I mean, they could, but they'd be like that big. It's a sight to behold. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, are they really raising Nimrod? Like Brandon said, I was like, oh my gosh.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Sorry.
Well, I've got to bring up this next part of the Vatican that it's announcing all these things for its Jubilee, right? So they've had a digital saint. They're going to open up these portals. They've got this brand new mascot, which is just seems an odd take. You know, there's mascots for the Olympics and a mascot for the Commonwealth Games, but a mascot for a church just seems strange because, you know, you've got God. That's like the biggest mascot there is. He's the guy. You don't need some kind of anime character. But the Vatican, in its divine wisdom, has decided to make an anime character named Luce, which is Latin or Italian for the word light. And who do we know was the light bringer?
Oh boy.
I'm going to share my
What?
screen and show you guys a picture of this. Let me bring this up.
Brace
I've
yourselves.
seen this little guy. Yeah, it's creepy as all get out.
All right. There we go. Can we see that on the screen now?
Yep.
How weird is that? It's got blue hair as well. Like, it has to be
Is there
gender neutral or something.
is there a reason for the blue hair?
I don't know.
It's because the
Seems
Democrats are
strange.
pissed off. They had to do something. Come on.
And it's here we go.
Color
She
flag.
carries a pilgrim staff. So a lot of people, and I don't necessarily align with this, but there are theories that the Antichrist would be a woman or a blended gender. So there's a lot of key red flags here. The blue hair. It doesn't explain the blue hair and why the yellow jacket. Reference the flag of the Vatican City. Okay. See, still seems a bit strange.
But this is the stuff that really kills me. Like it just, I don't know, maybe I'm just being dramatic. It just grieves me to my soul. You know what I mean? Like, because they make stuff like this, like, okay, the light bringer, you know, okay, the pilgrimage staff, the representation with the muddy boots, it's a long, like all these things, right?
There's
All
blood on
these
the
things
boot.
that are attributed to Christ, they just start attributing to other Roman Catholic icons. You know what I mean?
Not just them.
Like
the
even-
Mormons have a staff too.
Oh my goodness, dude! Like, why
Oh,
would
yeah.
you even make this?
What?
And like,
Look at
as the light bringer, what about Jesus? You know, it's like the same thing with Mary. You know, I get into, and I don't mean to start ranting. It just like like Jesus is supposed to be number one, right? You're our number one, so it's just like you know, sharing his attributes and sharing things with other religious figures. Like it just doesn't seem right in my eyes. You know, especially
Well,
like
and
the
then
whole
the
thing with
name-
Mary.
But name is
Yeah,
so close
yeah.
to this Luigi that just got arrested, and Luigi actually means renowned warrior. I'm just saying that they're bringing a lot of focus on this guy at this point, and then I have to bring it back. They were, United Healthcare #7 for the Mormons portfolio. Just saying. But they're all in this together. Like it's not just the Roman Catholics, like the Roman Catholics and the Mormons and all of this New World Order crap. They're all in this together. They're all in this together. And so I just think it's
Hmm.
weird. Like, what if he's the warrior that paves the way for what? For the beast, right? The woman that rides on the beast that comes with her cup of disgustment. That's what? It's what? It's all the churches. We know this. It's the
Mhm.
churches. And so it has to be a woman because she fornicated with them. So it has to be either a woman or can be a woman, right? We know that angels can pick,
I'm really interested as to why she's accompanied by three friends named Faye, Zin, and Sky. Faye means faith. Zin is Chinese. Like, why would they have a Chinese characteristic? It's a unisex name, which means heart or mind. Like, why bring Chinese into this when it's
The
arguably the
heart of the
biggest non,
sky, the
yeah,
heart of the sky.
the
That
largest
means angels,
non-denominational nation, right?
fallen angels, I'm guessing.
And
Well,
in the end times, isn't there meant to be the dragon would rise from the east, and that could be argued to be China?
And the seals that they're going to break are all, they have dragons on them in this whole St. Peter's business. Like it is crazy. Like this, I wanted to do a show on it because but I just was like, this is so much right now. And it's Christmas. We're not even supposed to be like, and I'm sorry, Brandon, I love Christmas. I'm sorry. But like,
can we go
yes,
back
go
just for a
for it.
second? I wanted to point
Yeah, I'll
something
bring it
out
back up.
just for a split second.
No worries.
You'll note the hoodie when you compare that alongside the Starfleet insignia, which is interesting enough. It's a star falling downward. Just
Or a
noticing that the
halo.
hoodie,
Or a
oh yeah,
halo. It's
a halo,
yellow.
the Pope's hat, yeah, yellow, and cross of Tammuz on the chest of this individual.
Mm-hmm. I
Connecting to
see
the
it.
hermetic complementary of life. When
I
you look on
see
the
it.
chakra, it's always in the heart region. Again, just little things I'm noticing there, and then blood, of course, on the green boots, which is a sign of the occult when they're doing their Baal practices. That's a little bit of a show off when you're seeing them wear the red slippers, the ruby slippers from Wizard of Oz. No,
The
that's a
hat
little bit of
tip.
blood.
That's a hat
Yeah,
tip. Yep.
it's our signature move. I'm just was noticing that, especially with the kid. It's literally rubbing it in our faces. That's all I wanted to point out. That's all.
Yep. Agree. Hat tip for sure.
Very
Mhm.
neat.
And also the blue hair, also because Luca mentioned this, I think possibly because it's something you can't get naturally. So like out of this world. Once again, it's something you can't achieve like normally. Like no one's born with blue hair, right? So it's ethereal. And then it has the halo. That for me, I was just all over that. I was like, and I'm done. I think I'd had
And,
enough that day in general. I was like, this is some crazy. I never thought I would live to see the day. Like I just was like, this is nuts. We're talking
Mhm.
about portals and aliens on page 1 of the news. Like real news, not fakey weirdo stuff. No. Like
But
Newsweek.
that should be a red flag to a lot of people, because it used to be conspiracy theory,
Mhm.
saying aliens or portals were real, extra dimensional, whatever. But now, like, I think we could all agree, like, we are turning the corner. I mean, we've basically turned the corner. We are headed straight down the chute, down that hallway of the final days. And now all of a sudden, the timing is very odd to, oh, okay, guys, guess what? Aliens are real, aliens are
Aliens.
real. Oh, guess what?
Yeah.
Aliens.
UFO. Very, very suspect. And like I was telling Drew earlier, it's not extraterrestrials, but extra dimensionals, bro, for sure.
Wow,
But
for sure. It's
that last little
crazy.
bit,
Did you ever think, Luca or Brandon or Drew, like you would open up your phone, nowadays phone or old days newspaper, and on page 1, it would be, we're back to Roswell? Are you serious right now? Like who opened that? Like what's
no,
happening? I mean,
the end
somebody went
days
to
is
the
that's
desert.
what's happening, buddy. End of the
Somebody went
world.
to the desert. The new Jack Parsons went to the desert. I want to know who you are. You're an ass.
Probably
Anyway,
Elon.
sorry.
100% it's Elon.
He has the funds to do all sorts of crazy experiments and do any of the Jack Parsons stuff, I'm sure. But
Speaking of, did you see him talking about? I can't even remember what it was. Somewhere, some town. Did you see this, Brandon? And he just gets the creepiest freaking laugh, and he's like, "Whoa!" Like
Yeah, it
Doctor
was in
Evil,
Tennessee.
and
He was talking with Jordan Peterson, talking about like maybe our new God
my
will come from Nashville. Well,
gosh.
and Peterson was just like, yeah. And then he's just like, oh. He's like,
He was
okay,
like,
dude.
"Whoa!"
Yeah, it's like getting a little bit creepy now. Just a
that's
question.
real
Actually, Jordan
suspect.
Peterson goes, "Actually, that's not funny," and he
Right.
was serious. He was like, "It's quite the clip. You guys should definitely Google that one." I'm watching it going, is this real life? Where the hell, what dimension are we in? I need to know. We have slipped out of reality. Like it is gone. I don't know. I
So
don't know.
my thought on that Luce little avatar character, how long until that's incorporated into an AI chat function that the Catholic Church
Oh,
rolls out as a mechanism for young Catholic children to develop their understanding of scripture and theology by asking it questions and communicating with it? And what type of
Oof.
things will it be telling kids?
or
And
praying. What if
yes.
they're going to have kids pray to it? Oh my
Mhm.
gosh.
Oh, that's okay. It's not worshiping.
Oh, they
It's
already
different.
did this in Germany.
Yeah, it's
It's
different.
Catholic
2023.
certified. It's fine.
They
Yeah,
had
it's totally
the
different.
AI gave a sermon in Germany back in June of 2023. It was solely delivered by ChatGPT.
This is so
I'm like, and this
weird.
was a Protestant church, by the way. Protestant.
Chat GPT cannot get a handwrite. It usually draws 6 to 10 fingers. We're
Yeah,
trusting it with
definitely
the
in 101.
sermons. Yeah, for sure.
But this all
Also, by
go.
the way,
Go ahead.
fun
No, no,
fact.
you're good. You're good.
If you try to draw the angels chained to the river Euphrates, if you try to put them in the river, it will not. And it turns it around and it makes the humans go in the river. And then I tried every single prompt I knew in the whole wide world and it wouldn't do it. And then eventually it started dinging me and saying, you can't play anymore. And I was like,
Hmm.
weird.
It's
How dare you mock us?
oh
Yep.
my God. I just completely lost my train of thought. It'll come back to me.
Neuralink buffering.
Yeah. Error
Wow.
404, thought not found.
Sorry, Heidi's big mouth. This
Nope,
is just
nope, you're
such a
good.
fascinating, like, this is a fascinating one mixed with all the weird stuff that's happening. I'm like, okay, I understand that the Catholic Church doesn't believe in direct revelation and people are praying to candles anyway. So, like, I get it. I get it in a way. Like, is it blasphemy? Pfft, I don't know. They're praying to, like, this lit on fire, you know? Like, I don't know. I mean, they're burying statues like Santeria in their yard. I mean, but Mormonism's just as bad. So, who am
It
I to
just seems
judge?
like we've been spoon-fed through science fiction from at least, say, the 1800s with Jules Verne up until now that science was going to completely dismantle the idea of spirituality, religion, Christianity. It would do away with all those old world nonsense things, right? But right now, we've got this digital sci-fi future being melded into that idea of spirituality. And it seems like they're ramping it up at a huge, huge pace. Like we mentioned earlier on these drones that have been spotted over New Jersey. One came out and had orbs spinning with orbs, wheels within wheels. And
Like the wheels,
what's the
yes.
one thing that everyone goes to? Oh, it's Ezekiel's wheel. And I'm like, well, no, this is being done deliberately. They're trying to get you to talk about Ezekiel's wheel so that they can try and make you make a connection of, oh, the angels were aliens back in the day, and now we're suddenly back in the ancient aliens discussion points of the 1990s and 2000s. They're trying to blend this
Wow.
idea of the Elohim and God and Yahweh as being ancient visitors, and I think they're really trying to solidify that idea now.
You know,
I
just
think
on
it
a
is
quick
true.
side.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mhm. No, no, you're good. Don't. You're good. I was
No, I
gonna
did it
say,
already.
the original thought was just hand delivered back into my mind by the Lord. So what I was gonna say was going back to, the whole AI uh sermons and digitalized sermons and all that. It goes back to what we were saying about it's just I understand, and I'm sure we can all wrap our minds around, like, they're trying to be relevant, right? They're trying to be relevant and connect with the younger generation. But then it just waters down the message, like we were saying, because you shouldn't have to, like, the hunger for God's word is an individual thing, right? People have to hunger for it if you want it. I think it's a terrible idea what they're doing, trying to use all these little anime characters and saints and digital saint and all this stuff and AI, chat, GP, whatever, to do sermons, because it's just going to water everything down. And you know what? At the end of the day, a lot of people may still just lose interest anyway. So you run the risk of just watering down the word as a popularity contest to be popular, and it doesn't do anything anyway. Just present the word and present Christ as he is in the book.
Well,
And
how
it's
can you
up to
be
people
relevant?
to hunger for
Yeah.
it.
How can you be relevant wearing the Pope hat? Like, if you want to change something, how about we change our outfit? How about we change that first? Like, why are you wearing these robes with your crazy hat? Because you know why, because they're paying homage. And if they wanted to be relevant, they'd show up in regular clothes, but they don't do that. Why? Because that means something to them. Whereas this stuff is just a game. This is a game.
Do you think they got a focus group and like, how do we make Jesus hip for the 21st century? Let's give him a skateboard and aviators.
Oh my god!
I mean, they put him in a
Jesus.
van in the 70s and made a song about it. Jesus drives a Astro van, right? With the doobie.
God.
This is like a real thing. I mean, like, these were jokes, but like, I just think that at the end of the day, like, boy, you got some, what's on you, trying to mess with, blasphemy there at the 10th degree. Like, good luck with that one. Sorry, not for me. I don't even have a picture. I don't do the whole Jesus pictures because guess what? Nobody knows what he looks like. And you might be worshiping, I don't know, the Pope's nephew that was totally a hot mess express. So every time they do this, it's like, it's always something else bad. It's never something better. Like you said, Luca, it's never something better to go toward God, ever.
What if it's the dehumanizing aspect of it's trying to reduce humanity even within, say, the Catholic Church? It is the largest denomination across the planet, largest religion. If it's removing, say, physical priests, and then and it gives you the ability to confess your sins via confessional via a WebEx, and you're communicating with a digital avatar that's not a real person, how do you know that's sacrosanct? How do you know that your sins aren't staying between you and the priest? How much
Okay, but
data
then it
collection's
just,
going on there?
yeah, it sounds like Scientology. Yes, exactly that. Yes, it
Well-
sounds like they're doing that weird Scientology thing where they record you with all your bad stuff. You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember
That's
what it's
used as
called.
blackmail.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
and especially if we start to go into an age of a rejuvenated Christian nationalism across the West, headed by a certain yellow orange-skinned man with a funny hairpiece, if that's the idea and there's this dust vault type of approach to humanity again, we're all emboldened by Christ and we're ready to go out and fight the pagans and the Muslim hordes and the blah, 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 and anyone that goes against me is a bad guy. If everything's digitalized and even something as sacred as your confession is being data-based by, say, the thought police, you mentioned to your digital priest that you were feeling anger and contentment for our Lord and Savior Donald Trump. So you're getting a knock at the door from the police and you're in trouble.
Well, they did this. They did this before with the whole Russian collusion baloney. Not with Trump. Not with Trump. Go back, back, back. They did this when they scared everybody about what? The Red Scare, right? This has already been done with Howard Hughes. I promise you. And it was done by somebody else before him and before him. But this has already been done. They get a charismatic leader. They get a cause. Back then it was, we can have no, people that are communists. You're all communists and we're going to fight communism and yay, everything to do with God, country, and America. And then they're doing it again. They're doing this again. And at the helm, who do we have? A useful billionaire. Just saying.
Well, I think part of it, like, we worship the Son of God, which, if we understood who Christ was, that's the Word of God made flesh, and that's John 1:14 and Revelation 19:13. So what we have to kind of cement here is that angels are not demons. That is the slain body of a Nephilim. Now, if you're an angel and you're about to get let out from under the river Euphrates, what's the first thing you're going to want to do? I want to get my kids some bodies back. So by praying to AI, you are praying to their kids You are taking their word over Christ, the word, only word, the way, the truth, and life word. So I think even by doing that, it's not necessarily even diluting it. You are literally playing to the kids of the fallen angels. So there's this literal thing right in the middle is that you're choosing which God you will serve. And I know we kind of laugh and like, oh, look, they prayed to an idol. Things happen. It's not you. There's something there. I think we kind of chuckle that off, but if you're reading a lot of Gary Wayne stuff, it seems like there was some sort of thing where whether it was telekinesis, whether there was some sort of Ouija board crap going on. I don't know. I don't want to know, but there was definitely enough there for the incentive of making them go, ooh, maybe there's something to all of this. And even with Moses with the staffs, apparently they can do something, but theirs can't eat other things. If you're following where I'm going with that. So there are degrees here that I think we have to consider is that, are you going to be praying to the kids of fallen angels, or do you want to worship the Son of God, which is applying the word? Why would they want to change the word? Why do we have all these new age versions of the Bible? What are they pushing us towards ultimately? And I think that's something we have to kind of dissect, because if that's what they're pushing, there's a reason for it.
Well, because that's what pissed God off real bad. Like they, I mean, really, that's like what caused a whole lot of havoc with the Tower of Babel and everything else. They know it's going to get a reaction. So if you're an aggravator, and there's plenty of fallen angels still here, like that aren't the Nephilim, right? Because they can't go anywhere else. Like they're literally stuck. Then we've got their kids, like you said, that are, roaming in the desert looking for a place to rest. So we've got all this stuff going on at the same time as the channeling coming together. Like all I'm seeing is exactly what Revelation says, this whole one world religion coming together, because I'm telling you guys, the Catholics have never let the Mormons in the gate. They never have. And the Vatican is right down the street now from the temple of the LDS people. Now, this was finished a couple years ago, like in 2019. It was so quiet, nobody knew. Actually, people that are Catholic or were Catholic have been on shows with me, and I tell them this, and they're like, "Nuh-uh," and I'm like, "Google." Like I never say anything that I don't vet. I already know I sound crazy. No.
No, you sound correct, because the Pope has already talked about, like all religions lead to the same God and that sort of deal. And I think, and again, this is my opinion. I wouldn't say there's like any biblical proof. This is just my opinion based on everything we do, right? We read different books, we study different cultures, different thoughts of view. I think going with the watering down of the word, right, and trying to be relatable and do all these things, it just weakens people's faith in it. And when it comes to that crossroads where it's going to meld all the religions into one religion, I think the true diehard Christians are going to be the ones that are going to say no. And then over time, the powers to be are going to say, hey, guys, this is why we have problems, is because of these goons right over here who want to say that, oh, God is real, and they don't believe in this, right, this mess that we have. They really think Yahweh, Jesus is real. We're going to have to get rid of them. And I think that's where we're going to get that end time persecution of Christians that we see in Revelations.
Well, and that's why they push the conspiracy theory stuff, because they want to make sure we're dangerous now. We're dangerous now, and then we're really dangerous later, right? Like, ooh, scary. And so they're the weird ones. Yeah.
Ironically,
and I think,
sorry, Luca. Ironically,
nope, you're good.
The New Ages are somewhat correct in this, in the idea of where intention goes, energy flows. But I'll put a caveat on it. If all these things are happening, the watering down of the word, the faith, it's chipping away your armor in the spiritual war, so that these bodiless, empty vessels that are where we would be the empty vessels to these things, if our armor is completely chipped away and we've got nothing to protect ourselves, the Nephilim, they're going to look for bodies, and just by the very act, unintentional, whether you know you're doing it or not, of praying to a false idol that may be, say, a saint within the Catholic canon, or some kind of a bastardized version of a pagan deity within, say, the New World religion that is some kind of Christianized paganism, you're opening up yourself to be inhabited by one of these things. And we don't know how many of these spirits are actually on this planet, around us at all times. And if we have our armor completely chipped away link by link, through these processes, you're more open to it happening. Your guards are down, your defenses are down. You can be re-sleeved and controlled by these entities.
The Jewish people say that there's so many that if we could see them, we'd be terrified. And that actually, even when you, especially like when you go to the bathroom or anywhere, like you should hurry, because anywhere that has like a dirty area or like a portally type situation, you should be fast in there and not be there for very long. When I talked to Dr. Justin Sledge, he's the esoterica guy. He was telling me all about this, and that actually he said, I would rather deal with 100 demons than an angel, even a regular angel, any day of the week. Not just a fallen angel, a regular angel, because they're so militant under God's word that sometimes they get things a little harsh. Not necessarily mean, but if they're like, he gave this example, he's like, an alcoholic praying to just be sober, and then they stick him in prison for the rest of his life. Like, oh, you're sober. Like, okay, you're never getting out.
And then the demon
they-
says,
Yeah.
toilet wine, toilet wine.
Yeah, exactly. See? And then they're easier to inhabit, because what? You'd become depressed and not believe in God. And, you know, I one thing I am scared about is most of the religions have one thing in common. Oh, that's fun.
Oh, how convenient.
You spoke out of line, Heidi. How dare you question? Wow.
Oh no, she's been raptured. She's gone.
She's good.
What's that say about us?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Well, at least, but I definitely feel like they know one thing. I'm gonna finish my thought and then I'll figure out this light. They know one thing, it is relevant not only when we talk about like not just Catholics, not just Mormons, not just presidents. Do you guys have a guess to what that is that everybody has in common? Freemasonry. I do.
You look super creepy, by the way. That red ominous glow, and then this really grey face.
Ooh, I'm gonna fix it.
It's. I don't think that the majority of people quite understand the complexities of the spiritual war, considering how dumbed down, dull, and apathetic we are because of the digital age. The things that it's given us, we've become lax in just everyday life, so we've let slip a lot of the complexities and the stringent things we should do within our spiritual self. How do we defend ourselves? How do we make sure we're on that narrow path? If everything else in your life is easy, you apply that thinking to the spiritual mentality as well. Oh, you know, well, instead of going to the church or speaking to someone or praying, I can just go talk to an AI. It's fine. It's good. It's easy. It's quick. I can text it.
Text
Oh, they have that, by the way. Text Jesus app, or a biblical character app. I'm not even joking. This is an AI thing.
Really?
You can message biblical characters. I'm like,
Wow.
I think that came out last year, if I'm not mistaken, or earlier this year. And I think that, like you said, I was talking with my buddy the other day, and I think what they've done with / Jesuit Rockefeller education system is that they want to get the highlights, have enough to repeat what you're told, but don't actually investigate anything of like, how did this war get started? What was the ramifications of this situation? Did this really event occur in history, or is there, and they want it so that when somebody who's a conspiracy theorist, somebody who's applying the word to history and trying to get and glean and understand the modern way that we have our world, that you're considered the lunatic because you're not part of the world we want, which is stultified, stupid, and compliant, or gullible. You just take my word for it. And that's why I really, when I'm looking at the news, it's modern day soothsayers. It's propaganda. And again, we're getting rid of the radical left, right? And we're all going to hear things like, oh, yeah, that sounds like a good truth. Yeah, Jesus had good morals. Yeah, we'll take the good morals. We don't like God. We could become our own gods, but we can take the good morals of Jesus. That's a good thing. Or, Buddhism, fill in the blank with everything. And I think what that's going to do is that while we got rid of the fake news, that creates the Mandela effect, where you second guess everything else that you hear in the news, when in actuality, it was a piece of the puzzle. And because you said that was just bias, you didn't want to put the two sources together and come to your own conclusion, right? So we just eliminated that completely so that you only trust the source or whoever's telling you this is true.
And you throw into this the problem with I find in podcasting in general, it doesn't have to be the spiritual and theological side of things, any conspiracy, politics, whatever. Now that AI is in the game, all you need is a few bad faith actors to give you, say, the cliff notes of things, like you said, Brandon, just the main points, leave out all the important detail of how you got to that conclusion or how it came to that ultimate event. It gives you those talking points. That bad faith actor gets amplified by the algorithm or by the powers that be that want that message spread. Eventually, all the AI that start to take over and make these really high-ranking, multi-million view videos on the same topic, it becomes a matter of entropy. The AI only picks up the small talking points, and then it keeps divulging and becoming lesser over time. So it's that diluting of the word and the real message, and you end up with an entire spectrum of, say, New Age Christians or conspiracy theorist Christians who think they've done the due diligence by watching 30 videos that are all saying the same thing, are stuck in an echo chamber, haven't dug into it, and they haven't looked for it for themselves because they've outsourced their own discernment to the talking personalities. And that's something I think we all do really well, is this is what we found, but you need to look for it yourself. And we go to each other like, hey, I came across this. What are your thoughts on it? And you might go, actually, look at this part of scripture. And this is how it pertains to this event. And we challenge and we push each other to be better people and Christians at the same time. Whereas what I find is a lot of the very big popular talking heads across these types of platforms, they are giving those small cliff notes and they're turning it into clickbait. And it's giving just a very narrow aspect of the overall story and the approach to this narrow path that we're all on.
And that's why they don't want to do debates like Billy Carson. Because you see how he got exposed blatantly. I was like, I've challenged him 6 times. Now I know why he doesn't want to do it. Because I'm like, I could trace that to Nimrod's son in the Hermetic Kabbalatry of Life. Now that he got challenged live on air, I'm suing you. Why? If you have nothing to hide or you actually trust your thing, but it's like, no, I want clickbait. And I've noticed a lot of his followers, they defend the man as opposed to like, did you look up what he said? No, but he's smart and he wears a suit. Hey.
Yeah, but stuff like that just goes back to there are just some people who simply do not want to acknowledge Christ. You know what I mean? So they do so at their own peril. I mean, there's enough out like what so I watched the debate and I was trying to remember I think Ed, don't quote me on this. Carson mentioned there was no actual proof of the crucifixion. I think that's what he was taught, right? Literally like a 20-minute Google research and excuse me, like a 20-minute dive into Google search engine, and you can see that that's completely false. Just like the whole Council of Nicaea thing, I think that had come up in the debate as well. Like everybody wants to say that the Bible was made and compiled during the Council of Nicaea, and that's completely false. That's a 5-minute Google search, but people hear things that align with their what they already believe in, and they just run with it, rather than actually taking a minute to see if you're right or wrong. And that's something that I've noticed a lot with folks who are like really deep into the esoteric and the occult stuff is that, and even like some atheists, right? Like some people are just so arrogant in their belief system that they are refusing to challenge themselves with alternate points of view to even see if they're correct or not, and that's I really feel like you do your best, right, to spread the gospel, spread information, spread the message, but ultimately it's up to that individual if they're going to accept it or not, and he's just at the point where, he definitely got humbled on that debate, and he just doesn't want to accept Christ, he just doesn't, and it is what it is. The best we could do is pray for him. Hopefully, the Lord has mercy on him and removes the scales from his eyes, but it's just wild to see those things, and then people will still stick by that person just like that. So,
and that's the thing.
I would challenge that
Carson.
He's actually.
Sorry, Brandon. With Carson, his entire premise and argument is based on the Book of Barnabas. A Book of Barnabas arguably did exist and did not exist. It was a forgery, but in a loose way, it is a book that did exist because people have accessed it. This is the problem with amplification on bad faith actors. They pick one clickbait idea, it becomes extremely popular. The majority of their followers pick up on it, regurgitate that message to the point where even in your Google search or you're searching whatever platform you're using, those will be the top results because they're the most searched things. You actively have to dig past page one a lot of the time. And we see that with this example here. Carson has been the clickbait champion of the world. He's built an entire platform on something that's very controversial, so people look into it. And I'd liken that at the moment to the conversations that kind of sprang up out of nowhere again, the idea of Satan's little season and that the millennial reign of Christ. All of this conversation has popped up all over again after it was revisited like 12 years ago. And now all of a sudden it's in the major talking point. And I can't help but feel that that's being done for nefarious reasons. It's at least being put in the zeitgeist of conversation.
It's intentional because I tend to veer from what Luke is saying. I think that's controlled opposition for New Ageism. Because when you look up who Hermes is, equivalent of Tammuz, which you look up Tammuz, and eventually will trace you back to Baal and Marduk and all this stuff, Nimrod's son. And you look up the Hermetic Kabbalah tree of life. It is the symbol of Tammuz, the cross. You can Britannica that. And why did they put him on that cross? Because it was mockery. You're not the Messiah figure we are looking for. Our Messiah is supposed to be Nimrod reborn for the third and final time. The whole fact that he's dissing the idea of the cross, the crucifixion, I'm like, dude, you're defeating it because he dies on his doppelganger symbol, the thing that you were promoting of Hermes and the Emerald Tablets. So the whole concept is flawed in and of itself because you're saying that symbol doesn't exist, and it connects to the guy you were advocating everybody to go towards. And if you think it doesn't have any relevance, the very top of the Hermetic Kabbalah tree of life is Corona, a spiked crown. What did they put on Christ's head? An inverted spiked crown, not like Helios or Statue of Liberty, which goes outward. It was inward. It was all intentional. And if you think it's not relevant, what did Moses do with the bronze serpent? You guys want to go back to the Caduceus staff of Thoth, an equivalent of Hermes? You want to go and worship that poisonous ideology? I'm going to mock you, God. I'm going to have my man of God make a staff. You want to accept those poisonous ideologies, and you're going to look up to it. Unless you do, you're not going to be spared from the poison of which you were bit. What do we get right before John 3:16? Just as Moses lifted up the serpent and don't think that's a coincidence that's thrown in there as symbolic reference, because it goes right back to, if you want to follow the son of perdition, Nimrod's son, who was reborn into his son, reincarnation, go ahead, believe that. Or you could believe on the Son of God that died upon the altar of sacrifice, and he brings it before the throne of God, as it says in Hebrews, and he conquers that symbol of death. Why does the Catholic Church worship a symbol of death? The word is made alive through Christ.
And why do Mormons baptize the dead? Right? I'm back.
Wait, what? They baptize the dead?
I didn't know
Yes,
that.
they do.
They baptize blood samples as well. They go to
Hey,
like
in all of our
23andMe and take the
conversations,
blood and baptize that.
What?
Also, by the way,
infants, but this is a new one.
they go all the way up, and I'm sure three-letter agencies have nothing to do with this fact that, you know, the last couple weeks I've been knee deep in three-letter agencies, one of which leads straight to Orange Man, through Roy Cohn, through Permindex, who is an assassin like bureau. And you guys can look this up. This is real stuff. And he is on the board. And I'm like, well, that's why the JFK papers never got released by Orange Man Fun, because Roy Cohn, his right-hand man, was one of the top people, along with a bunch of fascists from Italy and crazy mobsters. Literally.
Yeah.
Giancana.
If they release the documents that also point out there was Orthodox Jews performing a ritual at the assassination. Just saying.
Exactly. And he was shot by a gun. He was shot by a gun that was only made in Argentina and only used by the, you know, NA, not a Z, I. I don't know what all I can say. I don't want to get us, you know, I don't even have full power back. So,
So we started to stumble into, I think, the last part that will close this show out, and the next half of the show is, how does one spread the word in the digital age? We've gone over all the issues of, say, how the Vatican or the made man institution of the church is trying to step in between and take over and make you apathetic by looking at the cliff notes of things. And we've discussed the ideas of bad faith actors and people that are spreading these messages. ultimately it comes down to, I think our path, it is long and narrow, but as Christians, we're not supposed to walk that path alone. We're walking it not only with Christ, but we have a duty to try and take people with us, to try and help people along the way. It's like people walking away from a disaster. You don't be completely egotistical and walk off by yourself thinking you're going to be okay. You have to work with the community members around you for your safety and for theirs. You have to help people around you. And when I see these bad faith actors and people spreading the cliff notes for the clickbait and the notoriety of the content, I can't help but feel they're walking the path alone. And it comes across in the way that they are so dogmatic and adamant about their point of view. They're never very humbled about, this is what I've come across and we're going to discuss it and see what you think. It's, this is the truth and this is why. And I know, oh, I'm the arbiter of truth and this is the way, this is the word. This is the like the unofficial words that you see being sprinkled in amongst their talking points. So how do we spread the word? How do we listen to the word in a digital age when these types of things are the barriers to our path?
Well, I
I'll
mean,
go. It's okay.
oh, go ahead.
All I'm gonna say is that, Drew, I've had a lot of people. They're like, "You're a hypocrite because I'm using the internet." And as Heidi, I think Heidi and I did an episode. We were tired to talk about Black Mirrors and we're talking about the screens. And so the comment ended up being, "If you're gonna be using all these dark, magic stuff, well, you're just a hypocrite." And I'm like, "Well, you're listening to the content on this thing too." But regardless of the semantics, I was chuckling because I think it was Cody Seven Club. Shout out to him. He's a TikToker. Um, is that no devil formed against us shall prosper. A weapon. So no weapon shall forged against us shall prosper. And we have to start kind of being like in those action movies where you got behind the enemy lines, and you just immediately turn the cannon or the machine gun, you go, because channeling, whatever you want to call it, what are we doing ultimately? We are taking their weapons from their encampment and we're turning them against us. So we are Gideon soldiers dropping the pitchers and having them all kill each other because that's just the way God works. We are using their own thing, like anything that they wanted to use for bad, we are using it and utilizing it for good, becoming digital witness to other people. And a lot of people are starting to leave the pulpit and they're starting to go to the podcast. The word sermon means talk, podcast, conversation. Like this is a thing. I think folks are, I don't want to hear a good, fun, vanilla wafer sermon. I want to know how I'm supposed to fight. I want to know how to do discipleship. I want to know what's going on in the world. And I'm not saying like I have to know like, oh, it's going to be on this exact date. Like you're always, challenging people out. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we need to be aware of the times and the signs that are before us, because otherwise Revelation is a junk book. It should have been burned. Whoa. I'm just saying, if it's not relevant, it is there for a reason. And Apocalypse, Revelation means the lifting of the veil. Even Manly P. Hall, it says, when humanity learns to read signs and symbols, a great veil will fall from the eyes of men. So don't tell me this is not relevant, because just before, the groom and bride, what do? They lift the veil before they kiss. And again, Revelation 18:23, the voice of the groom and the bride was heard no longer in thee. Why? Because we are supposed to be speaking the word. And if the word is our weapon, right, as we get in Ephesians, why are we being silent? I think what we should be doing is starting to, everybody, I'm seeing a lot of people, they're not using social media to fight back. You start commenting on our stuff. It's like, are you doing anything in your field? Before you start arguing about what I'm doing in mine, at least I'm putting something out there for thought provoking to go against the system of all these things that we raise up as our idols, and they're becoming obstacles. And what's an obstacle? It's to miss the mark. So you're not hitting the mark because something's blocking your way. That's an idol. That's a substitute. That is Antichrist. So in summary, I think what we could start doing is, I don't know, start encouraging other people, and it doesn't necessarily just be a podcaster, encouraging people how to cultivate that, whether that's online, whether that's in person, whether it's going back to home church, house church, call it what you will, because we need to start cultivating a community, and we're going to start having these discussions, because we have to start getting deep. Everybody's saying, well, that's just not true. No, we need to start having to break this down, because this is where Paul was writing. If they were of us, they wouldn't have never left us. Why? Because if you're in the word, you are willing to be reproved. You're willing to be cross-examined. You're willing to be the Bereanian to challenge. And you're not afraid to hear what that challenge is, because you're letting the Holy Spirit be the intermediator betwixt the two of you. That's my 2 cents,
Well,
such as it is.
yeah. The Bible would never even have been written if they didn't use the tools of their time. Let's be realistic here. It would have died with every single one of them. I was drafted into this army. I was like a halftime stay-at-home mom with a whole bunch of kids, and I was told to do this, and I was like, no one is going to listen to this. And I don't know. I know like 3 people and 2 like me, maybe. And so I'm like, I don't know why you want me to do this. Nobody's going to listen, you know? And I mean, like God knows what he's doing sometimes. So we have to just follow, really follow and have discernment, really big discernment at this time, because intention is everything, or it wouldn't matter so much to the pagans, right? It wouldn't, not necessarily pagans, the bad situation out there. I'm not talking about a particular person. I'm talking about those who are against Christ in general. It could be a lot of people. And so when we look at that, and we have to use their tools, because if we go silent, which has been kind of a thing right now, and you're right, people are popping off, and not they're being told by their pastors not to interact on social media. That's a huge mistake, because then you're just being led by one person, and I'm sorry, unless they aren't a man and they aren't of this earth, which, I mean, hey, share who the new person is then, because I don't know anyone that walked the earth except Jesus, right? So I'm like, you men are fallible, women are fallible, people are fallible. This is not a good idea. We should always talk. And where do the philosophers go now? Like, where do we go? Here, we're here. Where this is what they used to do. They used to get together and do this very thing. But now no one does. How many people have visitors come pop up at their house frequently? No one. I mean,
Well,
you're
there's a
rare if you
historical
do.
psyop that did a very good job. You don't, in good company, you don't discuss politics or religion. So that whole psyop has done a wonder. And when the internet came out, that was the Wild West. People would go into Reddit boards and argue over things. That was like the philosophy coming back, people arguing and sharing ideas online. And now we're in the space where people can actually talk to each other and share ideas and have these types of panel shows. That's where it really is. And this is probably going to be the last space in which we can do this, because there are a lot of laws happening around the Western world, ironically, that was founded under a Christian nationalism, as bad as that is. The Christian part is being taken away now. You can't discuss religion in some spaces across the Commonwealth now. If you try to talk about religion within England, pretty much the homeland of the Anglo-American Empire and Christianity from that point, you can't talk about it. It's illegal. So these are the spaces in which we have to talk. And, it's going to seem very 1984-esque that we're talking in the back channels of the dark, shady spots of the internet. And that's the next war. That's the next battlefront. They're going to make out that we are the conspiracy theorists pushing misinformation and disinformation, religious zealots, all these types of buzzwords. But at the same time, it's not just the establishment we're fighting against. We're fighting against the bad faith actors who are using terms like gatekeepers. If you challenge my podcast or my show, you're a gatekeeper. You want to retain it yourself, or you have cognitive dissonance because you don't believe in my theory. Well, that's the whole idea. We're here to discuss theories and we'll challenge each other's ideas and take on board everyone's ideas and perspectives. That's how we get true discernment. That's the whole meaning of a cliche, is to gather together to call people out to talk. And we're not seeing
Yes.
that. And I think that's the purpose of what we're doing now, is we can have different platforms and have different ideas and approaches, but we're willing to come together to discuss them. And that's a rarity. What I see within the Christian podcasting scheme is we're so divided in our denominational borders and walls that people will just straight away will say, well, if you're not a Catholic, you're a heathen. Or if you're not Orthodox, you're going to hell. There's no budging. There's no wiggle room. There's no discussion points. But we managed to pull it off. So I'm grateful for that.
So true. So true. It's sad in a way, because they've literally deconstructed families, they've deconstructed community, they've deconstructed church, they've deconstructed school, they've deconstructed almost everything, and this is the last string. This is it. And that's scary, kind of, because they're dismantling that too, because what weren't they in charge of? They weren't in charge of TikTok, because who was? Yeah, bad guy China, right? But bad guy China let a lot of stuff on there. That I've looked up things and gone, I didn't see that on any other platform.
Mhm.
I mean,
I don't know
they
if
can say what they want.
if it's true. There's a guy. It's worth consideration. He does AOC Network on YouTube. Big audience. But he was pitching something that possibly Christians are the two witnesses. So I was thinking, like, imagine kicking that off for the next 3.5 years, right? Because he has to make war against the saints. And it was making me start thinking, okay, so if they have the years ahead, Google Images, if true or not, just saying, that there's supposed to be an alien invasion in the year of 2029, when ironically enough, that's when Apophis is supposed to hit us in the month of April, around Easter time, on the 13th. Whether or not that's true, it does make me think of the millstone from Revelation that comes suddenly casting down and Babylon falls within an hour. It's really making me wonder, because here's the thing: if you have the Elijah spirit start kicking in and they kick us off online, and God suddenly activates his saints to have the power to like breathe fire from our mouths to make the heavens like dry up and stuff like that. I'm just saying, with all the stuff they're doing now, wouldn't that be a little bit of a cog in the system of, really? I finally silenced them on the thing where I didn't want them to get followers, but then you start performing miracles and stuff like that. Like, that would literally totally challenge everything. And I was doing the math. That would be roughly towards the end of 2025. Whether or not that's true, and that's when, it does give me a little hope. Either way, I'm willing to die even if that doesn't happen. But if it was true, and they're prepping this whole alien thing, why? Because it's just like, well, don't worry, guys. The bad aliens threw a millstone meteorite at us, and the good aliens came to help us, and I will negotiate with them for how we solve all of this for humanity. And ironically enough, Hermes, which a certain orange man has the etymology name to, he was known as the messenger between the gods.
And you just
Don't
know,
worry, I negotiate great deals.
you just know that those good aliens are going to be
Huge.
the Nordic variety that look very human and very beautiful. These are like the best aliens, maybe the best ones ever.
I've seen
From
a lot.
Antarctica. From
Yeah.
Antarctica. I'm just saying, like, it is interesting, because possibly my thoughts were on the TikTok thing is they shut it because they don't have the capability to track it, because they don't own it. That's the whole thing, is they want to know
Always
where
been
each
the
and every
history. Yep.
person.
Well,
And I just do not trust these people that they trust. And I'm not an people text me, email me and say, you hate Trump, you do this, you do that. I'm like, listen, I don't care. I'm an anarchist. I would be happy enough out by myself. Okay. Like, I don't care about any of this garbage, but this is the thing. When people are idolizing someone at such a high rate, and you can take out worship, you can take out the God card on it, just the idolization. I've seen it in my own family, where people that hated him with the worst hate because he said, grab them in the what, and they were all LDS, and they said, oh, let me clutch my pearls. They literally had a party, and I'm in this group text, and I can't get out because it's family. And so I can't go out of it. And they're constantly like, we're having a party. Yay. And I'm like over in the corner. And I told my husband, I'm like, should I send him that he had the Ark of the Covenant rebuilt to exact specs and then sent it over to Israel now or later? And my husband's like, I forbid it. And I
your
was
life
like,
is literally that meme where it's the people at the party and the guy in the corner, and they're all discussing, I love Trump, he's the best. They don't even know he's the Antichrist.
and I'm literally the Antichrist to them as well, because I'm not LDS anymore. So and you just watch it and you go, wait a minute, you hated him. You all hated him. You all hated him. What happened here? And I'm watching it play out, and I'm not saying like worship in as Christians, right? Like, I'm just saying it lines up. Like, some people get mad when they're like, well, we don't worship him like that. I'm like, yeah, but you guys really like him now, and you didn't before. And I actually think his loss was actually pre-planned, because they had to want a king. What did they say? What did Christ say? They have to want it. They can't just have it. He can't just be there. They have to want it so bad. They want that so bad now. Because why? It has to do with freaking money. That's all
Mm.
that's all people, and trust me, I don't have money for groceries either. Like this is nuts, like it's never been worse. They say that it has. I'm like, I don't think so. I go to the grocery store for 8 people. You talk to me about bills, like no. I spend $600 every 2 weeks. That is astronomical. And I just look at things and go, yeah, I get it. I mean, I get it. But at the same time, what are we doing? Like, it's frightening. And was he the better choice of the two? Yeah, I guess. But either way, I'm not supporting it. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's weird
Marduk or
when,
Bale, take your options and pick. One thing I found
yeah.
interesting, I'm not, do you have an equivalent of this over in Australia, Drew? In God we trust on our money?
Mm.
No, we don't have that on ours.
Saw the queen, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it the
And I'm
queen?
thinking,
Yeah,
I'm
we've got the
thinking,
crown on ours.
I'm thinking to
Mhm.
myself, well, it's actually the same thing, because if you're going by the Geneva Bible, Ephesians 6:12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against the worldly governors, which is omitted from KJV,
Mm-hmm.
the princes of darkness of the world, and against spiritual wickedness, which are in high places. I'm laughing or kind of grieving that everybody wants this monetary Messiah. That's why he's so good, right? What did Christ say? Lay not your treasures in things of this world. We want peace and security. My retirement, my 401k, my social security. You look at the social security, it's got the two Masonic pillars on each end, and this, the eagle goes right back to Baal and Hermes. And Hermes was sometimes nicknamed the guy that would trick souls into going to hell. And we have God we trust on our money. Render unto Caesar the things that are at Caesar's, and unto
Wow.
God the things that
What
are God's.
God? What,
Right,
what God?
right.
Mammon?
And again,
You mean
Hermes,
Mammon?
right. And allegedly Hermes was, again, Nimrod's son, was the originator of coinage. What fell in America? World Trade Centers. He was known as the god of trade. I'm just saying, guys, what is our priorities here? Is it things and monetary thing? Like, I'm going to make a lot of money and I'm going to get raptured out and I'm going to spend eternity in heaven. That's your priority. That's your game plan. Not the gospel, not the kingdom of heaven. You're really? That's what you're going with. You want to get up there
And
and
the
give that
quote,
your resume. May
that
God have
quote you just
your
gave,
soul.
that scripture was just before JFK died, right? He said this. He
Really?
said these same things. Yes, he did. And then he said he was going to blow the CIA to all the four corners of the
Yeah.
earth, and then he's dead. So I'm like, listen, anytime they want to get rid of somebody, my point with the JFK stuff is they will.
Yeah, you
He
don't
was
just turn your head at the right moment and then have a tiny little
no.
cut that looks like it was done by a ketchup packet. I'm sorry. If they want you dead, you're going to be dead.
It's going to happen. And if they didn't get you that day, they would get you in your sleep the next. Like, come on now. We're not playing with babies here. We're playing with stone cold killers. Like, my uncle was a Green Beret and he was on presidential duty and he was like all kinds of crazy stuff. They trust me, they know what they're doing. Like, there would be no accident. Yeah.
Luca,
Luca,
we've been
I'd like,
talking way too much. Say something.
yeah, I'd like to get your take on this, Luca. Don't you find it a bit ironic that with the digital technological boom of the current 21st century, we've never ever been at a better time to spread the word? We've got these wonderful platforms like we're using now. We've got text-to-text communications. We can fly and physically meet people anywhere on the planet. We've got this great ability to spread the word, but it's never been harder to do so. I, in a lot of ways, almost feel like it would be easier to spread the word back under the occupation of the Romans, going from town to town, and be safer back then than I would be today spreading the word in my own country. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to agree. Because electronic media can just it's more easily censored. How do you stop somebody from going out to a street corner and to a large group of people and preaching the message? I mean, that also has its own challenges. I think most people, myself included, it's easier to do it digitally because I mean, one, once it's on the internet, it can be censored, but it's difficult because there's just too many outlets for people to share and people to access the media. Number one. Number two, it's there, it's repetitive. Our voices are echoing through the digital age and through cyberspace in perpetuity, the message of the gospel and things of that nature. Because although, yeah, you can censor it and make it difficult to access, you can never get rid of it entirely unless you shut the whole internet down. You know what I mean? And I don't see that happening anytime soon because even in countries with the harshest of censorship, people are still, able to use VPNs or other methods to get around, those international firewalls and access things that they want to access
Unless
that are
unless they
otherwise
make
suppressed.
unless they make
Less what?
everybody have a cat card. Unless they make everybody have a cat
Yeah.
card like the military.
Yep.
Digital ID.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Biometric visa passport exam. Everybody keeps saying that video's blurry. I'm like, look it up. Well, it was 8 years ago. The justification games you guys play.
Yeah.
As
So,
long as they're brown and
it's
black
nerve-wracking.
skin, I don't care. Is essentially what you're telling me. It's absolutely mind-boggling. It's like, you do see it, right? No? Okay.
Well, this just came to mind when you mentioned that I saw a video randomly across Instagram today, and it was a British couple holidaying in China, and they signed up to WeChat, and they had a biometric scanner for their palm. It's not a physical like chip or anything in the hand. It checks the actual vessels and the way in which they're coordinated in the individual's hand, and they were using that to pay for things in China.
Wow.
So it may not necessarily be something that has to be implanted in your hand. It could be your own physical body, and
Yes.
it maps aspects of it to do that. And we see that in biometric scanning for the idea of digital ID now in Australia. The way that they're going to bring that in to stop teenagers from accessing anyone down to the age of 16 is they have to have a biometrics digital ID set up so you can verify your age. So these things, they are coming into the West very quickly, all at the same time as these UFOs and the church opening portals. It seems like they're throwing as many different psyops and plays from their book as they can against the wall because they know their timeline is coming short. They have to try and beat God's timeline, and they can't possibly do it. So they're throwing everything of their bag of tricks out.
Or it is something in our body that isn't just our body, because everything is tainted. All the food, all the air. I don't know about you guys, but we have had nothing but fog, dense fog here. And I know it's happening other places because TikTok had a Florida guy and he had it and they were taking pictures of it. And it has been so dense and bad. My asthma has been level 12. Like, it's just been out of hand. And I'm like, this seems weird. And it wasn't snowing, and it's Utah. Like, normally we have tons of snow and stuff. And so I was like, it was like 4 or 5 days like this, just pea soup. Yeah.
That just reminds me of the Justinian plague. So during the Justinian plague, there was a week of fog that surrounded the crops and countryside with, reapers sowing the fields, ejecting this stuff at the same time as lights were seen in the sky. And then the Justinian plague took off. So if we've got these lights in the sky, we've got fog covering the United States everywhere. Some people have said supposedly these drones are spraying things. What happens if during Trump's inauguration, there's some kind of a massive outbreak again?
Well,
Plus
he is
the
bringing
invasion,
back
plus
the
everything
World's
else?
Fairs. He's bringing back the World's Fairs in 2025. He has already announced that. He announced it before he ran, that if he got reelected because of America's birthday again, that he was doing another World's Fair in 2025. And we did a whole show on this. And I was just like, this is crazy, and what happens after every World's Fair? A reset, but also everybody gets sick. There's a pandemic once again. And there's all these flu shots being bought up from other countries right now.
You say it's supposed to end in 26, right?
Yeah, but not the World's Fair tour. I think it starts in May is what I think
when does it end?
I can't remember. We'll have to look it up, but I know he's planning on doing it.
Does it say which city's holding it? Because that'd be very on the nose. If
it's multiple. Here, you guys chat for a minute. I'll find it. Let's see.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Iowa, I think Chicago, quite a few. Yeah. It's not pretty. And they're making a statue for Trump for his inauguration.
Will it be gold?
I don't know,
Probably.
but I was looking at the plaster base for it, and I'm like, guys, it's like so freaking evident. It's like Nebuchadnezzar's statue. It's like, let's take a moment of silence and look at my beauty. It's beautiful.
So actually, I guess they're doing it in 2026. It's just ramping up in 2025, like getting everything ready. The U.S. will celebrate the quarter millennial since its declaration of independence. It will be a 12-month-long salute to America. Trump calls for a great American state fair from all 50 states, nationwide high school sporting contests, and the building of Trump's National Garden of American Heroes, with statues of important figures in American history like Frederick Douglass and Amelia Earhart. So this will be a 12-month thing, and it will be traveling.
Wow.
So
Are they
So
going to
if we
bring
don't
back?
go,
I
are we going to get thrown in a burning furnace?
was going to say, are they going to bring back the human zoos for it like they used to do? Because I don't want to be the
right.
ginger that's on display in a cage.
Maybe,
Focus
maybe,
specimen.
maybe.
Oh my gosh.
But he does say he is proposing Patriot games for the high schools.
That sounds very much like Hunger Games.
Very
Yeah.
much. Are you not entertained? Also, like back to the whole Roman Empire. Like, what were they doing?
Bread and
Yeah, it's like
circuses.
the same thing. Yeah. So it's very interesting to me that he's doing this. When I first seen it, I think it was in 2024, and I did a show on it, and people just missed it. But I was like, don't forget he had a hotel named the Atlantis. Like, he's very clued in. Let's be real.
That was
He's
in
not.
that was several texts from Atlantis were in Elon Musk's Dark Maga Assemble video. I did a 2-hour breakdown of that. It's like, guys, oh, I'm Dark Maga, the Dark Magician, red and black. That's the color. You know, it's literally as above, so below. Those two colors. When you put it on the Star of Remphan, aka David, that's what it is. Conjoining together, as above, so below. And I'm like, guys, if you look at that video, it's showing everybody getting like these glazed eyes, like they're possessed, and then they start going into like this just volt. Most of the armor I was looking at, I was like, we could be wrong, but why are you showing us this? Like, how is this Christian seeing a zombified army making our country great again? And it looked very authoritarian, where they were like kicking down doors in the video and stuff like that. It's worth watching. They throw in so much symbolism, and go slow watching it, because you will see a lot that makes you go, why is there a lion with Trump?
You know, Trump
And
originally was going to make his political party called the Lion. He was going to have a lion symbol. He wasn't
Really?
going to be a
That's-
Republican. He was going to have his own party, and the lion was going to be his symbol, the white lion.
So the thing that he disavowed is oh, I could see them doing that for 2028, saying, you know what, we need to have a third party, and I'm gonna next time run it as a lion, because Christians don't go out and vote
And
anymore.
imagine if he changes the rules during his presidency that you can have more than
He's
two
already
terms.
going to. He's already.
And here's the list.
He's already taken out amendments 11 through 17.
Atlanta, Boston, Dallas, Houston, Kansas City, Los Angeles, Miami, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, San Francisco Bay Area, Seattle, Toronto, Vancouver, Guadalajara, Mexico City, and Monterrey. I am shocked Salt Lake City is not a part of this.
I'm just saying that's not the United States. That's Latin America, parts of Central America and Canada. Are we going to see the North American bloc within the next decade as a unified nation state?
Economist Magazine 2017. It's having Trump sip on the whole entire North America, Mexico and Canada included. I don't think, again, was it you that released that, Drew, with the Mexican president lady having the red bracelet?
Yeah.
I could see it. We'll fix it. We'll build the border down there. It'll be a smaller wall. It'll be the greatest wall we've ever seen, and they'll actually build it because they'll be our next state. Yay.
Well, the northern states in Mexico have wanted to succeed into the United States for like well over 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
And it's been voted down and pushed back by the Mexican government.
Oh boy.
There's
So
also
all they have to
a
do is have
huge
a
population of
America
Mormons
deals
in
with the cartels,
Mexico.
put some troops on the ground, and then annexes a couple of those northern states. And then you've got somewhat of that predictive programming happening.
Tell you what, exciting times up ahead.
It's better than
My
television,
God.
I tell you what.
Yeah.
It's something. It's something.
So I've got to ask the question, Americans in the room, that you've got Trump coming in and a big platform, and Trump said he was going to get rid of illegal migrants. The only way I can say that ever being done is Trump actually has to identify the illegal migrants, and to do so would to give every American citizen a biometric ID, a digital ID to identify who they are, which I don't think a lot of people are going to want to do. He brings this in. He's got a tech multi-billionaire mogul as his best friend who has the resources, the means to do so. What's the response going to be? Do you think it's going to be this increased nationalism, patriotism front that's emboldens people to go, oh, it's only an ID. We can get rid of the brown people. It's fine. You know, it's okay. Is that the response that you think is going to happen from a lot of these very like fixated MAGA people?
The
Yes.
Mormons already jumped on board. They did a whole article in Utah over like, yeah, they're ruining America. Get them out. I'm like, wow, that doesn't sound like World War II at all. Great job, guys.
Did they follow it up
Project
with white and delight? White and
Well,
delight.
yeah, literally. And actually the article that came out was actually really funny. It said, and the Mormons, well, they said LDS Church is on the wrong side of history once again. And then they showed a World War II article where they were in support of Hitler. And I was like, good job, white and delight some people. Great job making all those redheaded people here in Utah. Drew, you would feel right at home here.
Well, Project
Oh,
Esther
boy.
is supposed to be using the RICO Act, and they're going to be basically anybody who support what's going on in the Middle East, or sorry, anti-supporting what's going on with Israel's expansion campaign, Manifest Destiny, Dust Fault, Holy Land. Anybody who speaks against that is essentially going to be also included in this thing. They're going to like limit their education, and this is part of the Heritage Fund, which was part of the Project 2025 and Newsweek and PBS. Russell Vought, who was the head guy of orchestrating that, was appointed into Trump's cabinet. And they did confirm that we're going to move forward with Project 2025, which, and you eliminate amendments 11 through 17, it makes a perfect segue for implementing Noahide laws, which Trump is the champion of.
And then make the Department of Defense guy the Templar. Yeah, that's good job.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
job. Yeah.
Pete Hegseth has got the Templar cross on his freaking chest. I was like, oh.
On his heart. On his heart.
Yeah, of all places. So I can see if they're going by the years ahead, they were saying 2025 is supposed to be lockdown. So I could see this kind of being, in essence, as like that quote, first they came for the gypsies and I didn't say anything because I didn't know, and then they came for this. By the time it gets to the real Christians, they're going to be like, well, they're conspiracy theorists and they're the ones promoting, misinformation, or they have sentiments with terrorists. So, that's against our war on theology, biblical version. So no, we're going to, so dispensationalists, churchians will definitely advocate and be like, yeah, it just take a little bit more. Go ahead, take them too. And if they don't like it here, we can get them out of here. I can see a lot of this. And I think there was a documentary that came out, and I think it's for free online, Amendment 13. Now, I don't promote, I'm just going to state this from the get-go. I do not promote the overall message or how they're, highlighting Obama or Hillary, maybe their administrations will fix this thing, whatever. Not emphasizing that. But if you've ever wondered how the South used to be Democratic, Civil War, and burst
They
into
flipped.
becoming Republican. Yeah, it really shows you it was under racial intentions, and that's why we're diehard red down in the South. So to say that, oh no, we're not racist, it's like we are. That is something we really need to take into account, because as much as we're saying we're not, and we're like the least racist country on earth, it's like, no, when you don't like people from a Middle Eastern country and you can't even find it on the map, you're just saying it because they're anti-patriotic or they're all terrorists because they simply wear a burqa or something. We have a lot of problems. Or every single immigrant that's coming up here, it's like, you're aware that when Trump was leaving office, he signed a lot of legislation that basically put tariff embargoes on the Venezuelan government. And the government said, you know what, we can't afford that. So we're going to stockpile all the food. And what do the citizens do? We're starving. So what are they going to all do? We're going to start migrating to a better land. Where's that land? Let's go to America. Biden has. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's all orchestrated intentionally, especially with what we have going on in the UK as well, France. It's all by design because they want white purity in essence. And if Heidi is right in the Nephilim aspect, or like even when the Mexicans came over, sorry, Spaniards came over and the Aztecs were like, they're white, they must be gods. There's probably something with all of that. Sorry, that was a rant, but I just want to throw that all in there. Luca, say something.
No, I was, I'm really of the belief that when you have that much money, wealth, and power, when you're at that higher echelon of society, it really is all a club and everybody's in it except for us, basically. You know what I mean? So I just, this whole thing about, do I think, like, I voted for Trump because what was the other option? You know what I mean? I just don't buy into this whole, he's the savior ordained by God. Like, we're taking it to the extreme. We are very much, even if people want to deny it, like, Drew was saying, I mean, I shouldn't say we, but a lot of people are just taking him, a regular man with power, money, and influence, and just putting them up on that pedestal. Will things get better? Yeah, I think it'll get better because, like we've said, like it's orchestrated to be done that way before it starts to nosedive completely. So we'll see. And that's why I say, it's gonna be painful, but it's gonna be an interesting next couple of years. And that's why it's important, to hold on to your sanity, just be in the word and just remember what's at the end of this all. Our hope is in Christ and the millennial reign and the New Jerusalem. And to get there, we have to go through the birthing pains, like it says in Revelations. And all these things are going to start getting sped up as we get closer and closer.
It actually really scares me, the potential that you mentioned, Brandon, because I see that happening a lot with the Christian nationalism, which is being inexplicably tied into all these young, like Caucasian men across the Western world who are tied into the National Socialist movement. Like this is rising up. This is the really dangerous thing about humanity. At the best of the times, we're tribalistic, and it's bred into us in many ways through history that we are at confrontation and in competition with each other. That's where the divide and conquer has always been so simple along racial and ethnic lines. And to see that being spurred along by the deliberate ability of nation states and NGOs to flood countries with economic and wartime migrants, it breeds and sows that division in a way that I think it will bring about a Christian nationalism, that Das Volt mentality. And you've got all these young white men who are willing to do most horrific things in the name of Christ, air quotes, when it's really across egotistical and racist born avenues.
Well, because the
It's
white
happening
men
everywhere.
have been beaten down so
Yeah,
bad in the
exactly.
last 5
Right.
years. It has been
Right.
crazy. Like they have literally been told they're the scum of all pond scum earth for 5 years. And now all of a sudden, if you could breathe again and get a boot off your neck for 5 minutes and you didn't have the spirit, you didn't have discernment, you weren't a good Christian or whatever, or even if you are a Christian and you're just not really plugged in, right? And you felt like, oh my gosh, well, at least I can make some money. I mean, geez, I can't even look at a woman because then you're, the R word, and like all these things, like you can't do anything, and every race is superior, like you're just nothing, like I mean, I could see it. I can see why people would lose their what and go towards that because they've made it simple. Like here, hey, you don't feel like you belong, like you said, Drew, tribalistic. Oh, come over here. We'll help you out. This is a better way. And pretty soon, I mean, how the hell? Me and my husband talked about this last night because we were watching this show about segregation. And I'm like, isn't it weird that that even happened? Like in America, especially where we came here for like freedom and like that we had to have separate drinking fountains, not in my mom's lifetime. Like in my mom's lifetime. And we were just talking about how does that even get there? Like, how does that even happen? That's so weird. People are just people. Like, what, why? And we both thought, yeah, that's really weird, but it started somewhere. It doesn't just happen. Okay.
No, it's that
You
Hegelian
know.
dialectic. And I think we're seeing that at the moment where a certain nation state is going balls to the wall to create their greater Israel project. And
Mhm.
what does that create? We saw it during the American intervention of the 2000s. It creates wartime um, refugees, and they have to go somewhere. And as Westerners and Western countries, we're empathetic. We've developed as nations with a Christian ethos, and we welcome people with arms wide open. But then that's a problem reaction solution. We get people pissed off and divided along ethnic lines that aren't guided by other greater principles, and they're solely focused on the racial aspect of things. It makes them react to it. And the reaction's going to
It's
be
easy.
a pretty horrific
Yeah.
one. And we've seen the historical precedents of that. When white people chimp out, it's goddamn horrific.
Yep. It's true. It's true. And it's terrifying because a lot of times it not only makes sense, but then you get the overachievers in it. And then even their own people end up in this. Like there were so many people in the Nazi party that didn't even believe it, that were like, you know what? He pays the most, so it's cool. Like it's fine. And then
Making
the
Germany
Jewish
great again,
people,
Heidi.
yeah, and the Jewish people had their chance to like possibly go after Hitler or do something about it if he did get away, if, right? Or some of these other people that absolutely did get away, like the Broman brothers and all these things, like all these people. And that, you know, who put a stop to it, right? It was the Jewish people that put a stop to it. You want to know why? Because then they couldn't pay the reparations.
Mm.
So there's that. The Borman brothers. Yeah.
Tie it right back to the beginning with all of this, though, Drew. One thing that I think is going to happen is when they crash the economy, first they're going to have Trump's new Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent. When you look him up, he was the head of, was it Soros Head Fund Management? And like, that's basic Google. And it's like, okay, I thought him and Soros were enemies. Hegelian dialect much? I think what he's going to do, cure the international debt with Bitcoin. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. And this is going to be the thing, is they're going to usher in, via Republicans, digital communism. Without us even really getting it, we're just going to be like, oh yeah, well, it solved the national debt, so this is a great way to make a lot of money, like Heidi was saying. I'm able to do all these great things, blah, 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 and all I have to do is accept this little digital convenience. So I make money, blah, blah, blah. If I turn in people, I get their wealth, and whatever I can sell on eBay, it goes into my digital bank, and then, right? SIM character, SIM card, cell phone. You're becoming part of the internment camp, internet camp, whatever you want to call it, without even realizing it, is because you wanted monetary success over wanting the kingdom of heaven. So the people that are saying we need to look at biblical prophecy, not governmental policies, you're a heretic. How dare you? Trump made a Bible. Okay. Not the
He
point
also
I'm trying
sold
to make.
out. Yeah, he
Right.
also sold out to end that war. You know, he talked to Putin and got it under the table deal. Like, you stop messing with Syria, we'll stop messing with over here. And they've already done this stuff. And like, I'm looking at it again. What do we have in common? Freemasonry. I'm just saying, Putin's part of it anyway. Like, it's not about that they're not a part of it, right? They all go to WEF, they all do these things, they're all identified. You know what the argument was no, I'm not going to lose money and go to your petrodollar. No, that's all that was, period. He was like, I'm not giving up. It's not about who's in on it, it's who wants to run it. That's all this is. So it's just scary. But
to tie it back to the whole idea of the digital technology and how it's being used, I think when it comes to the financial monetary system, people are being baited into Bitcoin and a lot of the altcoins like Ethereum and things, thinking that's a way to distance yourself from the system. But as soon as quantum computing comes in, your keys are done. They're going to be able to hack and take your funds like that instantly. And people are going to look for an alternative. And I think the alternative is going to be that state-based Fed coin. And I wouldn't at all be surprised if Trump ends up calling it a Phoenix coin, because the entire monetary system will collapse if cryptos in their current form are pulled out from the rug underneath us, and we're all
rising
done.
from the ashes. Yes. You are brilliant. And they have affiliated that with Trump all the time. America was known as the land of the Phoenix. I could see it. It's bringing back the economy. It's going to be great. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
All right. Well,
Wow.
I think we've covered the whole gamut of conspiracy theories and how these could possibly eventuate, and the dots that we can link in between on this. But does anyone else have anything to finish the show off with? Any final thoughts?
don't give up. And the only way to get out of the system, personally, that I can't do, but I mean, I do what I can, is homestead. Like, you need to get food storage. You need to do the things that you can do, like, enough, not just for yourself, but that you could help somebody else. Like, don't just think about it in your, like, if you have enough money or whatever to do more, do it, because somebody's going to need it. Somebody's going to need help. You know, we got to create safe harbors for people.
Wise words, very important. The community just isn't yourself and your family; it's other people around you, and you may not be planning for those people, but you know, whatever you're putting away possibly can help those people in the future. So good points.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't look at a kid and watch him starve. Like, I mean, that's just not in my makeup. So whatever color they may be. By the way, Utah. Anyway.
Well,
You just
guys,
lost 5 credits.
no Phoenix coin for you.
Uh,
Well, let's go around the horn. Let people know where we can find our work. Let's start off with you, Brandon. Where can we find and follow your fantastic work, friend?
Mana Daily Podcast, Spotify, Rumble, and YouTube. And now I'm getting merch. So if you can support, I would be greatly appreciative because I'm going to have to move soon. So supporting the show and also supporting my living situation is big, big props. And I'm prepping a show that's going to be explaining that whole star thing at some point. I'm only shouting that out because it's probably going to explain a lot what the Masons believe, New Agers, and what this whole alien thing is. So just shouting that out. Stay tuned for it.
Awesome. Heidi, over to you.
I am at the Unfiltered Rise podcast. I'm everywhere podcasts are served. I do have my own website now, unfilteredrisepodcast.com. And I also have a Patreon where for $5 a month, you can get 2 extra shows of me being real crazy and my actual unedited version, which is even worse than it already is. So if you are entertained, please visit me there. And God bless everybody for your holidays. Thank you.
Luke, over to you, friend.
You guys can find me on Justified Belief Podcast. That's Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and now Patreon.
Awesome. And if you're hearing me on anyone else's platform, I'm Drew Misson of Your Missing the Point podcast. Same thing as these guys. You can find me at all the usual podcatchers. Finally back into it after a little break. So there is a backlog of things coming out soon. We had some wonderful news in our little family. My wife is pregnant. So, all praise to God for blessing
Yay!
us with that. Yeah, I'm absolutely ecstatic. So if you're hearing it here first, that's why I've been quiet for a while.
So exciting. I hope it has
It
red
is.
hair.
I'd better. Heidi, you're back after a little break. Can you end the show with a prayer, please?
You bet. Dear God, please help us and keep us sharp, sharpen our tools and make us helpful to not only ourselves but others, because that is the point, right? We need to keep everyone in mind because ultimately you created us all, and I believe that, and we are here to help one another because everything else is hung on the cross, and love is what's left. So especially at this time of the year, if you can give, do it. If you can help, please do it. Like if you can embrace others and give them even just knowledge or words of kindness or smile, like come on guys, we got to bring it together as a community, and Christ will shine from you into other people's lives, and you may not even realize what you're doing to help them. So let's keep each other sharpened. Let's keep each other wise. Keep us in the word and bless us and protect us with the armor of God. In Jesus Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. And on that note, guys, we'll catch you all next time.
Bye.